Hi there. My name is Kelsa, and I am the owner and financial coach behind Fiscal Fitness Phoenix, where every day we are on a mission to take the stress out of money. I believe that the work that we do with clients is incredibly unique. Our philosophy around money, the way we budget, the way we help people take control of their money, and ultimately the way that they see their money is incredibly different. And it's so different, in fact, that it's oftentimes really difficult for us to explain to somebody exactly how we do what we do and what do we do. To say that we do budgeting is so inaccurate. The way that we look at money as far as budgeting goes is a very unique system. So what we have found works is for us to do a video explaining to you and showing you exactly what this process looks like. So the first thing that we did is that we came up with this framework for overcoming financial stress. How do we help individuals move through a process of overcoming financial stress one step at a time? We believe that the first step in doing that is that the client has to decide to take action. Either they decide to call us, they decide to pick up that one book at the library for the very first time, have a conversation with somebody, admit to themselves something. And that is ultimately the first step. In other words, they have to believe that it can be better than it is today. They have to believe that it's possible for them to enjoy their money, be happy with it, maybe not complain anymore, not be as stressed as it is. At this stage, people will usually call us and they're very scared. If they're really nervous to show their money to somebody, it's really hard for them to talk to somebody about their money. And ultimately, they don't necessarily trust that it's actually going to be a whole lot better. They just know that they have to make that phone call. We tell clients at this stage that it's okay if they don't fully believe it, that we believe in them enough at this stage to move them through this process. Until they can learn to trust themselves, we're going to trust them enough. Okay. So we're going to teach them every step of the way. And at first, we believe in them enough. We believe in their skills, their ambition, their hard work, and our guidance enough to move them through this process. So they finally make a decision to call us and we schedule them for their Eureka session. In the Eureka session, we move them to this next stage. We gain complete clarity in this stage. Our job here is to paint a very clear picture for the client, not only on where they stand financially right now, the ins and outs, every expense that you can imagine, from clothing to your electric bill to investments. We gain full clarity on it and we paint a very clear picture during this stage. And we craft a plan to get them where they want to go. So here's what you've been doing. What do you want to do with your money? And we create a very clear plan. And I'm going to show you an example of that in just a minute. At that point, imagine having a really clear plan of exactly what you should be doing with your money, how much you should spend. My theory is that people aren't out every day saying, I know I shouldn't buy this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Most people really just can't see their money very clearly. They're not sure if the money they have in their checking account right now is really okay to spend. Should they save it? Does it need to go towards a bill 3 pay periods from now? And in that stage, we give them complete clarity around that. And so what happens is they can start making really good decisions, one after another. And that's when they move into the next step, which is gaining confidence and building their confidence around their money. We set goals every pay period, every month, 90 days. We know exactly which month and which pay period in that month they will have a credit card paid off, for example, or they will hit their savings target. Any number of things, we have such clarity around it that we know exactly when they're going to achieve it. And then what happens is we decide to challenge that. So our job as their coach is to say, how can we do it one pay period sooner? How can we find a little bit more money every month? How can we get you to drive your income even more and essentially build even more confidence in this phase? Finally, we get to the pride phase. This is when we really start to dig deep. So in the confidence phase, what we're doing is we're planning 3 months, 6 months out and getting a really good plan in place with our money. In the pride stage, this is where a little bit of life coaching comes in. We're getting them to plan years in advance. We talk about what is it that you want to do with your money? What kind of life would you like to create for yourself? What kinds of hangups do you have around money? Let's dive into those. Let's plan years out. At this stage, one of the things that I love is that clients will often admit for the very first time to us and oftentimes even to themselves that they have a goal that they've never admitted. And our job is to say, how does the goal that we're working on right now also serve that long-term goal? And how can we start putting your money now behind that bigger purpose with your money so that instead of just having confidence, which is great, you actually have a deeper sense of pride and ownership over your money for a lifetime. So you're very engaged in that process. Ultimately, the end result is that we don't want you to have financial stress. We want you to feel so in control of it, so proud of the decisions you're making every day that they're not only serving you now, but they're serving you in the long run as well. So I'm going to show you a little bit of how we do that. Oftentimes people come to us and they're struggling with some really basic financial challenges. They don't have any money in savings, or they don't have enough in savings, or they're not saving as fast as they would like to be saving. They're in debt and they can't seem to get out of it, or maybe they get out of it and then they find themselves right back in it. Or they say that they have a spending problem, they don't live on a budget, and they really don't know where their money is going. Our theory is that these are all symptoms of one main problem, and that main problem is an inability to see your money very clearly. So it kind of looks like this picture down here where it's a big cobweb. We know it's all connected, but we can't see very clearly how it's connected. So if I pull this string over here, what happens 2 months from now? If I spend money today, what happens next pay period? And it's that lack of clarity that causes maybe some spending decisions that are poor, maybe debt, or maybe just a lack of savings. And if we can solve that first problem, not only will we be able to save all of these things actually pretty quickly, but we can then get them to plan their money and become extremely intentional and grounded with their money for years and years to come as well. Most people have life in a financial picture that looks a lot like this, which is very chaotic. So you could have a month, we're going to look at this blue line first. You can have a month where no one-time expenses happen, and then a dental bill, and then nothing happens and your car breaks down, and then nothing happens, and then the kids go back to school, so you've got school supplies and clothes and all sorts of things, or maybe a vacation. So there's this roller coaster ride to life and to expenses. And then you've got this green line, which is the day-to-day lifestyle things, groceries, going to the gas station, getting coffee in the morning, eating out. Where this blue line will fluctuate, monthly or quarterly, this smaller line fluctuates daily or weekly. So we can have some days where we don't spend any money at all, and then other days where we go to the grocery store, we go out to eat for lunch, we got a coffee that day, and we had to put gas in our car. So it's a really expensive day. And then most people have a fluctuating income, some more than others. So some people have a business and their income fluctuates rapidly. Other people, maybe they have a biweekly paycheck. And so what happens, even if it's a salary that every 2 weeks they get the same amount, twice a year, they get a third paycheck in a month. So they get 2 pay periods every month, their income is nice and steady, and then bam, they feel a huge fluctuation in their income in 1 month. Or sometimes you get a tax refund or a bonus or a gift from a family member. So there can be a number of things that also cause a fluctuating income. At the end of the day, this is what money looks like. It's sort of this chaotic picture. It's coming in and out at all different times, all different amounts. And it's this lack of control in the timing of how it's happening that's causing so much stress, and that's causing a lack of clarity around what can I do today to control this. Oftentimes what happens is a person can have a really good income month and no one-time expenses. And they think, all right, I got this. We're good. No problem. We've got a handle on this. And then they can have a month where their income is fine. It's just a normal month. But some of these whammies happen in multiple. So you're about to take a vacation and your car breaks down in the exact same month. And so it's an extremely stressful month. And what happens when you're on this roller coaster ride long enough is even in the good months, you start to live in fear of the bad. And so then what happens is in these months, instead of having extra money and feeling really excited about that, doing something really good with it, oftentimes people very subconsciously, they're not doing this knowingly, but they will spend this money because they feel like, well, I better spend it because life will take it away from me if I don't. Something's going to happen, so I would rather enjoy it, okay? So they perpetuate the problem without even realizing it. At this stage, what happens is most people say that they're going to budget, okay? We ask every single person when they call us, have you tried to budget before? And about 98% of people say yes. So in other words, a lot of people have tried to budget before. And if you were to go to Google and type in personal budget template, you will actually see over 20 million results for this concept of a monthly budget. It's this idea where you list all of your income at the top for the month, and then you list all of your expenses, and it says at the bottom, voila, you're supposed to have money left, or maybe you're going to be short. The problem is that this process is really flawed. We do not budget this way. Most people do not live their life in 1 month increments, and they don't live their life in a linear fashion. So in other words, this nice, pretty spreadsheet doesn't actually match that chaotic picture that I just showed you. So if we have $400 budgeted for groceries in 1 month, we don't go in one trip and spend exactly $400. There's this timing factor to real life that this doesn't address. I really wish that this system of budgeting was never created. I feel like what happens is that 98% of people have tried it. 80% of our population does not budget. Okay, studies show that 80% of people don't budget. And what's happening is those 80% are saying, I'm bad with money. I can't budget. I'm bad at this. When really, in my approach, I look at this and I say, this is a very flawed system if 80% of people can't do it. And there's 20 million different versions of it out there. Something must be wrong with that system. It's not the people that are flawed. It's the approach that is flawed. So we have come up with a new system, a new approach. We call it the FFP budgeting method. The whole concept behind it is that you can't control when life happens, but you can control how you feel it financially. So I can't control when your car breaks down or how you take vacations, but believe it or not, we're actually going to show you how you can control how you feel it financially. So in other words, we're going to make it look like this, where every expense is nice and even, nice and steady without fail. And the only thing that might fluctuate is your income. But notice that even if your income fluctuates, this picture looks a lot easier to control than that first picture that I showed you, which was really chaotic. So let me show you how we do that. The first thing that we do is we help our clients get organized into 3 different categories. The first is recurring expenses. Those are the monthly things that happen. They usually have a due date attached to them. These are their bills. We get clients organized by due date with these. So the first thing is some clients come to us and they don't even know what their bills are, and we help them identify those, get really organized, put them in a list by due date order. So which paycheck of which month is each of these bills going to be clearing from, getting set up on a really nice, consistent schedule. So some people have 3 different checking accounts that they're using, and some bills clear one and some bills clear another. And we help to streamline their approach to getting really on top of the recurring expenses. Believe it or not, this first category is the easiest of the 3. So it is not the one that tends to cause the most stress. So it's usually the easiest for us to fix and get organized on. The second one is day-to-day spending. That's that smaller fluctuating line that I showed you. So groceries, eating out, etc. The idea here is that we help clients identify how much do you need per pay period for all of it. Groceries, eating out, coffee, miscellaneous supplies. If you give your kids allowance, for example, in cash, that might go into this category as well. It's different for every single client, and we really come up with exactly how much a client needs and which categories of expenses will go into their day-to-day spending, because it is different for everybody. Take dog food, for example. Some people just buy a bag of dog food when they go to the grocery store, so that would be included in day-to-day spending. Other people might buy a big bag every 6 months because they have a small dog and it lasts them 6 months. That would not go into this category. So we really go line by line through a person's expenses and help them get really organized on all of these. For day-to-day expenses, we do love the cash system, but in a unique way. So we don't believe in the cash envelope system necessarily. We lump it all together and we say if your total day-to-day spending is $600, you just take out $600. That's what you get for 2 weeks. You don't have to have different envelopes. You don't need to track it. As long as you're spending your cash, you're not doing anything wrong. If you don't like cash, sometimes we'll let clients open up a separate spending account. So on payday, $600 in this example goes into a spending account. You use your debit card, but what's happening is your main checking account is feeling the same amount every 2 weeks, and it's just one line item, and it makes what you're spending very visible in that spending account. We do recommend cash first for most people. We recommend that they try it for 2 to 3 months. If at that time they really don't like it, we introduce the idea of a spending account. Most people, though, actually love cash once they get the hang of it. It just takes there's a few growing pains there, if you will. So day-to-day spending causes a lot of stress for people when they first come to us. There's a lot of guilt associated with this category, and we really help them overcome that. Everyone thinks they're spending too much or they have a spending problem, and we help reconcile that, get some control over it. We help with meal planning, talking about eating out. What are some good parameters we can put in place for each client in particular? The third category is the non-recurring and random expenses. That's that big fluctuation. So the way that I describe this, these are all the expenses that don't happen every month, but when they happen big. Vacations, clothing, a vet bill, you name it, there's a lot of them. And the first thing that we do is we help clients gain awareness on exactly which categories of these types of expenses do they have, and then what's a good monthly average for each one. So some of these are really easy. If you take your car registration bill and divide it by 12, you have a monthly number. Nice, pretty clean formula. Some of them are really hard, and we have to do some analysis and really help a client gain awareness on how much do they spend per year on clothing, right? A lot of people don't know the answer to these questions when they first come in, and we help them really refine these numbers. So we come up with a monthly number, and then what we do is what we call the modern version of the cash envelope system. So there are some banks that we like to use from this. I know there are some apps as well, some software out there that help with modern envelope systems. Most of them you have to pay for. The way we have everything in our system set up is you don't have to pay for anything. There's no software you have to download. There's no memberships or anything like that. Everything that we do is set up for free. So the idea is we will use a bank such as Capital1 360.com or Ally.com or a local credit union that doesn't have a minimum balance requirement, or USAA, for example. A lot of those allow you to open as many savings accounts as you want. You can title each account whatever you want. So you'll have a clothing fund and a gift fund and a travel fund and a vet bill account and a car fund and a home repair fund. You name it, there can be a ton of different savings accounts depending on the client. And every month, just like it's a bill on a set date, we will take that money and put it into one of those savings accounts. So if you want to go clothing shopping, you don't have to look at an envelope in a drawer and look and see how much cash you have. You can simply pull up the app to that bank on your phone or pull it up on your computer and say, how much is in my clothing fund? And then you can go and spend that. So it gives you permission, it gives you control, it gives you awareness. People love this step, and it's something that they end up creating even more accounts than what we first set up for them originally because they like it so much. So they might have a particular account that's for a goal for themselves, like a new laptop or something like that, or a new bedroom furniture, and they just save for it as they can. And when they get enough money, they go buy the bedroom furniture that they've been wanting. So they actually end up loving this step. What I want to point out to you is what we have just created before I go on to the next step. So day-to-day spending ends up clearing your checking account on payday for a set amount. You either are taking it out in cash or you're transferring it to a spending account, but it becomes a regular, consistent expense as opposed to 32 debit transactions in a 4-day pay period, okay? The non-recurring and random expenses become a fixed set amount every single month. We're taking the set amount and putting it into the proper savings account every single month. So these two categories, which are the two most stressful because they're completely random and no one has control over them, we've made them resemble this fixed and recurring expense category. We've locked them in and we've set them on a set schedule. So now we can feel really in control of them. Everything starts to happen like clockwork. Your paycheck comes in. You pay your bills. Those happen pretty consistently, and you already know exactly which ones are coming out of which paycheck. You take out your cash and you save for upcoming expenses. This system happens over and over and over again. At this point, managing your money can become really boring, and this part of money should be boring. I think that's a beautiful thing. I don't want this part to be stressful. We can get a handle on bills and our spending money and things like car repairs. We can actually make that part so consistent and so systematic that it's mind-numbing. And I think that's a beautiful thing. The ultimate goal of doing this is that you're so in control of the everyday part of life's expenses that you don't have to spend a ton of time managing it. So you can redirect that time and energy towards setting goals with your money, learning new things like tax strategies or talking with a financial advisor. You really can invest that time and energy in a much smarter way around money in general. The next thing that we do is we actually tie it all together into a spreadsheet. And I am going to show you that right now. We actually help clients create this. So again, it's in Excel. They get access to it at all times. It's their document. We create it and then we teach them how to use it to make decisions around their money. That's the most important thing, is that taking everything we just did to gain clarity and then use it to affect your decisions, set goals, and gain confidence. Okay. So again, everything is set up by pay period. So this client maybe got paid on the 8th and the 22nd and then the 6th and the 20th. And when she first started, she had $163 in her checking account. So that's our starting point. We've got our paycheck comes in, we take out our cash, and then here's all the expenses that need to clear out of this paycheck. And you can see they're in due date order, nice and clean, nice and simple. They all need to get paid or come out before she gets paid again, which is why they're listed over here. This number down here is actually the most important number on the entire spreadsheet. This number tells you how much is left in your checking account at the end of the pay period. So your bank, when it says your available balance is X, it's lying to you. It does not know what check you wrote yesterday that hasn't cleared yet. It doesn't know what bill is going to clear 3 days from now, but this one does. This number says once everything posts to your account, here's what you will have left. So even though your bank says you have $1,200 right now, that's not accurate. So don't go and spend that money. You really have $851 left. Now, you're not out swiping your debit card all the time, and you've got money in savings for some of the whammies that pop up. So this money should still be sitting in your checking account the next time you get paid. So it carries forward automatically the next column. Your paycheck comes in, you take out cash, you pay the bills for this pay period, and you transfer your money to savings for that month. And then here's how much is left. It carries over and you repeat over and over and over again for months or even a year in advance. So I want clients to see every pay period coming up for as far out as we can. So that way we always have very clear picture of everything that's happening, not just now, but what's the impact of that decision on their finances 3 months from now, let's say. And this spreadsheet will actually tell us that. So let's say in this example, this client has one credit card. And in this paycheck, they have $851 left. So they might be thinking, oh my God, I've got $850 left. I've got this credit card right here with a balance of, let's say, $600. I'm going to do it. This is the pay period. I'm going to pay off my credit card. Watch what happens if they take $600 out today to pay off their credit card. Watch what happens here, but watch also what happens to every pay period going forward if they make this decision today. Notice this pay period, they still have money left. And so they're thinking, I did it. I'm so proud of myself. I still have money left. I might even go treat myself to a pedicure, right? Because I'm so darn proud of myself. But look what they just did to themselves next paycheck. So here they are feeling really good. Their emotions are high. They're excited. They're proud of themselves. And now they're kicking themselves. And they're probably saying something like, why can't I do this? What is wrong with me? Because chances are right here, things like gas and groceries are going back on that credit card because they realize that they're short in their checking account. So there's this vicious cycle with money and with debt that's happening. And having your money laid out in this fashion helps you to see it before you make that decision. In this case, this client couldn't pay off the credit card, but could they send $300 to the credit card? Absolutely. So they might see that they have $550 left, but they know they really don't. They're really leaving themselves with $74, and maybe they're okay with that. But you know what? They're not taking 2 steps forward only to take 2 steps back. This feels like slower progress, but in my philosophy, this is actually true progress. This is actually much more realistic, and it's much less emotionally damaging because they're not making progress only to have to take a step back, which is really frustrating and demoralizing for people. So that is our spreadsheet. And one of the things that we do is, like I said, we do this for months in advance. So we will have every goal on here for every paycheck. So if we have extra money, which credit card is it going to? Are we putting it into savings? Are we putting it into college planning savings? What exactly are we doing with that money? And we have that done for months in advance. Okay. One thing I will show you is that in this month, this client gets a third pay period in July. So they have a little extra every single month that we're going to be doing something with. But then back in April, we're going to know that come July, we have a lot extra. We actually have almost $1,400 in 1 month to do something with. And because we can see that, it makes the choices we're making today, it makes those sacrifices around our money today that much more worthwhile, because we can see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We can see that we're about to make massive progress instead of maybe some small progress every month. And that can be really exciting for people. The ultimate goal with all of this, like I said, is to be able to set goals with your money and not have it be where you set a goal only to say, well, I just got my emergency savings in place, but now I need to take it out for a car repair or a vet bill or something like that. Or I just paid off my credit card, but now I have to put something back on it, because we're missing the boat on regular expenses that are maybe just random, but they're a regular part of life. So we get control over all of that first, and then we can set goals. And this is really where the confidence starts to come in. When clients are tackling their goals on a regular basis and they're achieving them, they feel phenomenal. And then that's where the momentum starts to gain. The ultimate question that we teach clients to ask every single month is, what am I going to do with my extra money? Ultimately, that's what I want you asking yourself every month. And then I want you being really intentional with it. I want it going towards one goal at a time. You hit that goal and then you get to move on to the next one. And we're always planning at least 3 months in advance. That way there's no surprises. And, one of the things I like to tell clients, we can't plan everything perfectly. That is not the expectation here. That is not the goal. But if you can plan for 75% of what will happen to you financially, the other 25% becomes so much easier to deal with. Instead of putting out fires continuously with your money, feeling like you don't have control over anything, we might have a few exceptions. So instead of having a massive roller coaster ride, we might just have a few speed bumps every once in a while. Maybe a car repair happens that's $600 and we only have $500 in our car repair fund. Well, in that month, we didn't have to come up with all $600. We only had to find $100, which is a lot easier to do than the massive $600 expense all in 1 month. We offer various levels of support in order to help clients put all of this together. We do help them gain the clarity first and foremost. That's probably something that most people need help with because they're not sure where to look. Where do they put things? How does this work for them? Since there's some massaging that needs to happen as part of that system, and we help them with that. We offer levels of support as far as weekly check-ins. When we create that plan, what help do you need? It's normal that 100% of budgets fail in the first month. And where a lot of clients will fail is that they will allow some tweaks to derail them, where our job is to say, okay, you know what? That didn't work. Let's change this. Let's move this over here. See, no problem. And let's just stay on track. We don't let them get derailed. In the very first month of working with us, we will meet with somebody weekly without fail. It's required. You've got to talk to us every single week because we know that that's what it takes. It takes about 1 month to gain complete clarity around every dollar coming in and out. Clients will ask us things like, well, what if I forgot something? What if there's an expense that I forgot to tell you about? And I tell them right away, you absolutely forgot something. I know it. Don't worry about it. It happened. I can guarantee that happened, that there is something that you're going to need money for that you're not thinking about right now. It happens every single time. And when it happens, you just call me. No problem. We talk about it. We put a plan in place around it. We get it on the budget going forward. That way it's one less thing we forgot about going forward. It is no problem. But it's little things like that the client will use as a derailment of like, oh my God, now the whole plan is ruined. And we don't let them get down that slippery slope. We hold them really accountable and support them every step of the way. So if you have any questions about that, we hope that you'll reach out to us, ask us about those different levels of support. If you want help looking at your money for the first time, oftentimes that very first step of seeing your money clearly and having that picture painted for you can be really scary. I totally understand that you're not sure what you're going to find. What I can almost guarantee is that whatever picture you're painting in your head right now, whatever fear you have, whatever mental story you're telling yourself is worse than what reality is. Okay. It happens all the time where a client comes in, thinks they're so much worse than what they really are. And once we paint that picture and give them some action lists and give them some things to control, they feel immensely better. Okay. So we hope you'll take advantage of that. The total purpose of everything we do is to overcome financial stress. We want to help you gain clarity, build your confidence around your money so that you start to trust yourself, and then ultimately help you feel really proud of everything you're doing and trusting that the decisions you're making today support you for the long haul so that you have no more financial stress. If you have any questions at all, please call us. We are here to answer any of your questions. Thank you.